Welcome, beekeepers. I'm zooming in today from North Carolina. And I am Key, and I just want to let you know I am zooming in today from the ancestral lands of the Lumbee people. And today in our women's series, Women Creating New Formations and Paradigms to Change Consciousness, we have one of my favorite women with us, Miss LuEvelyn Tillman. And Lou, I would love for you to just give a little introduction of yourself before we start our conversation.
Okay. My name is LuEvelyn Tillman. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in Rayford, North Carolina. I am also a Lumbee Indian, and I belong to the Lumbee Indian tribe of North Carolina. Our main office or district is in Pembroke, North Carolina, and I'm honored to be here.
Well, we thank you so much. And so because you are such a wonderful just forerunner in relationships, I would love for you to share with us some of your wisdom about this time, and this planet is so full of non-skillful relationships, as I would call them. And I'm wondering if there's a place you'd like to start today, even if it's just familial relationships. What are some of the priorities that people really need to hold in mind right now as our world is changing?
One of the greatest things that I think people need to maintain a focus on is a balance of love in each other, and knowing that with love comes a level of respect. And with respect, it's almost like it's a ladder you build. We start with the foundation of love, and we go to a place of respect. If we go to a place of respect, then we're going to find a place where we accept people for who they are and what they're willing to give to us. And hopefully, if most of us start off with a place of kindness, then it's really easy to love somebody when they're kind. If I'm going to be accepting of someone for who they are, what they represent in that moment before me, then I'm going to love them too for who they are. And one of the greatest things I've learned through so many challenges in life is that you got to start off with loving people for who they are in that moment. Anything outside of that distorts the reality of what we're dealing with. You know, with the world having so much confusion and so much chaos, there's a lot of different ways that people would love for people to be divided. But if we start off with a place of commonality and just loving being human beings, and trying to find some level of goodness and love in the person that's before me, then all that other stuff is irrelevant.
So it is relevant. I'm curious if you might have some tools. You know, sometimes, especially some of our parents, you know, they might say, my child is behaving in a way that they should know better. You know,
Right.
what are some things they could do inside that might support that love rather than the judgment?
One of the greatest things that I've learned to start sharing with parents along the way is we tend to often want to manage our children or control our children. What I have learned, if we spend more time focusing on building a relationship with our child and finding a balance between that and teaching, that we will go much further in helping them in this area that we are working in. One of the strategies that I used with my sons as they were growing up is we would sit down at the table and I would ask them, what is one thing I can do to be a better parent for you? And they were allowed to do the same thing, which was ask me, what is one thing I can do to be a better child for you? It does two things. It opens up a door of communication, and it lets our children know that we're not perfect in who we are. We struggle as well. And if there's a parent that's struggling with the way your child is presenting, if they're struggling with the way that they communicate, then I would ask them to lay aside everything they've ever been taught by somebody else and ask themselves, what do I want my relationship to look like with my child? And if I want that to be a loving, caring relationship, how do we start communicating without me trying to control or manage who they are as a human being? Because eventually that child is no longer going to be in your house. And hopefully there'll be a thriving adult. And that thriving adult needs to be able to have maintained a respectful, loving relationship with you. So what did we do as a parent? Did I show love? Did I show forgiveness? Did I open myself up and allow my child to see that I was human and I make mistakes as well? And I think that's very important. I think we tend to try to hide that we are this soldier and we can protect and we can manage everything that comes into the life of our children. And we know best what's needed for you in your life, but we don't. We weren't dealt COVID as children. We weren't dealt being stuck in a house with computers and having to learn what relationships look like over social media. It's a different world our children are coming up in, and we need to hear them. We need to take time and listen to what they're saying. And not only that, but find out where the anger is coming from and what role do I play in contributing to that anger and that frustration, and being honest with myself about what I need to lay aside and be able to have the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with my child so that we can keep those doors open.
So I hear it's really resonating what you're saying, and it's so curious. It goes back to that respect level that you mentioned in the very beginning, that, respecting your children as beings rather than as a reflection of us or something that belongs to us. It sounds like there's this love and respect sort of anchoring through communication.
Yes. Yep. I'll share with you a story about my son, Logan, right? Logan did an Instagram that he was gay, but he did not share that with me. Someone else told me about it. So I went to Logan and I sat down beside the bed beside of him, being raised in a holiness church and being taught all kinds of things about the Bible. Having a son label himself and come out in a way of acknowledging what he chose for his life was very hard for me. And I struggled with that. But that was my struggle. That wasn't Logan's struggle. That was mine. And I had to take ownership of that. So I went to my room. I did my cry about poor old me and the shattering of what I thought my life and reality with my children was. And I went and sat down beside my son and I said this to him: no matter what the world brings to you, no matter what people or religion says to you, at the end of the day, you are my son. Who you choose to love, how you choose to love, is not my responsibility, nor do I take ownership of that. That belongs to you. But I want you to know that my love for you as my son will never change, regardless of who you choose to love. All I ask is that you do the same thing that I do with you. I respect you, you respect me, and we will continue to love each other and find kindness. Now, that doesn't mean that Logan goes over in the corner and he hides with his partner or his friends. No, that means that Logan still comes to see me. He shares with me who he's in a relationship with. We have conversations about his relationship, and I offer support and love and guidance just like I would any of my other children. And that allows my son to continue to thrive as an individual. It allows him to still have love and not feel isolated, because me pushing up my child into isolation is not respect of him for who he is, nor is it showing love, or is it showing kindness. But I had to get out of my own head of what I was taught. I had to get out of my own head about what I felt and I thought about it. I did sit down with him and tell him the world is not always a kind place for you, nor will it be. But I'm here to help you fight through any challenges you face. And I want to make sure those doors are always open if you ever need me for anything. And that I offer him my support. Whether I agree or disagree has nothing to do with me loving my child and supporting him. And if I disagree, then that's my disagreement. That doesn't belong to him. That belongs to me. And myself nor anybody in my family should ever mistreat him, talk down to him, or make him feel like he's any more worthy than anybody else is to be loved or shown kindness, or the person that he plans to be with. And I think at the end of the day, God always showed unconditional love, and we should show unconditional love to our children as well. Yeah.
So it sounds like it had nothing to do with what your child was bringing into your environment. So is that one of the things that parents, you know, I'm a huge fan of therapy, as you know, I love my therapist. And I wonder if going to therapy could help parents sort of bring into their awareness. This is something I learned, like you had mentioned, you learned from the church, right? A certain paradigm that fit you as you were coming up in the world. And now the world is changing. There's much more freedom. And so I'm just curious, where do parents find that kind of support? If it, you know, a therapist is great. And
Yeah.
is that something that you would recommend, that parents have somebody who's objective to talk to say, I'm so curious, Key, where did you learn that? You know, that's not your daughter's thing, that belongs to you, you know, because sometimes I feel like we can't really see it.
Right.
You know, we don't know it's our thing. We think it's about another person, and it's really our stuff.
Right. I did learn that in therapy too. And I do believe that for parents that are struggling with any kind of challenges when it comes to things that are stressful in life, including our children, you know, I think it's important to find somebody who can sit down without judgment and talk with you and help you separate out and to find out what really belongs to my child, what really belongs to me, and what do I need to really do to change the way that I communicate with my child. And the other part of that too is finding support groups. There's all kinds of support groups that you can find that that share the same views or that are going through the same struggles that you're going through with your children. And don't be surprised, especially if you find a therapist that's been in the field long enough. We're not surprised about anything that we see or hear. You probably won't share a story that we haven't heard or a problem that we haven't come through, and know that there are people that are strong enough that will be there to hear you without judgment of anything that you feel. I even tell our teenagers, what a miraculous place to be able to go into a room. You can dump everything that's on your heart and soul to that person, and it doesn't have to be shared with another human being. And the thing that we should always give you as a therapist is love and support and kindness. Does it mean that there's some tough conversations that have to be had sometimes, and say, hey, I need you to draw back and look at inside of you and find out what about me is really having a hard time with this? And is it me, or is it what my child is bringing to the table? And then at the end of that, we still offer you love and support to give you the strength that you need to move on to that next phase. Because at the end of the day, that's all we want, right? We want to be able to be happy and at peace in our lives. And if you're not at peace, then you need to ask yourself why, what's standing in the way of that. And if you can't figure that out, therapy is a great place to start.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I love meditation so much and connecting with nature. You know, the land just speaks through. Yes. And I just feel that I feel like all beings could have this sense of deep and natural peace. And I'm also curious, I know you have tremendous success with couples and relationships. And I'm curious about like attachments. You know, if something happened in my childhood and I'm having trouble with my partner, is that what are some resources that you could offer people?
I would definitely say that if they're really, really struggling in their relationship, it would really be good to go and see a therapist. And I do think people underestimate how the things that they've experienced as children and in their childhood shows up in the relationships. Um, I think for some reason we think that as we age, as time goes by, those things just linger or maybe even disappear. But you would be surprised at the things, the thoughts, the beliefs, the way that you interact with other people, how that has come from the way that things were modeled or played out in your own childhood. And it can be problematic for a couple. You've got two different people coming from two different walks of life joining together, and in some situations, actually having children and raising them with two different theories and philosophies. And you have to be able to sit down and identify what your differences is in the way that you think and you feel. And both of you come to a compromise with what you're going to agree on with each other. But therapy is definitely a good place to start for that. The other thing is both people being genuinely honest about being willing to take a look in the mirror at what role do I play in the stressors that we're dealing with in our relationship right now, and being humble enough and vulnerable enough to share that with your partner and be willing to have conversations. I usually tell couples, if you've got a great job that required you to go to training, or you had to have a degree for that job, or even just working at McDonald's, you have a job description. You're given a job description, you're given an evaluation periodically on that job, and the outcome of that evaluation determines whether you get a raise, or it helps you determine whether or not you're doing a good job. Every couple need to sit down and do an evaluation of how they play the role in their relationship and in their family. They need to do a self-eval, and the partner can do an eval of them. And they both need to put energy and time into sitting down and talking about that relationship and how it works for them. You do that in the trainings that you do for your job, and you show up to your job every day and you're thinking about how you want to do your very best in your job because you want a good evaluation. Well, we should feel that same way and have that same philosophy in our relationship. You should want to show up every day being the best you can be in this relationship because you want this relationship. And the other thing that I've learned too is we tend to give more grace to people outside of our relationship or outside of our household than we do to the people inside of our household. I might be in an argument with my mother, but because she's my mother, I might excuse, bypass, or forgive her much quicker for something she said or done. But for some reason in a household, we tend to take for granted our partners and our children, and we let those arguments and those frustrations linger for days. And so it's another way of doing a self-inventory. Am I really hanging on to stuff? Am I not really giving them the credit that they need or deserve, but I'm giving it to my best friend, or I'm giving it to my boss, or I'm giving it to my mother because they have some other level of power over me. But I can't recognize that the person that I lay with in the bed every night should have more power than anybody. Because if I'm sick, who's going to take care of me? If I go to the hospital, who's going to be there with me? If I need somebody to change my bedpan, who's going to do those things for me? It should be the partner. So how much energy, how much strength, how much time are we giving to ensuring that that relationship is working compared to other relationships and situations and partnerships that we have in our life?
So I guess it would go back to like what you did with your children, right? How can I be a better partner for you? Or
Yep.
knowing oneself to, I know if I'm too tired, I might get a little irritable. I could just say, Key, I'm a little bit irritable. I'm tired, or I've done a lot this week and I don't feel quite myself. Right. So bringing that thing into balance, that priority of your relationship with your partner seems to be kind of like the rock. My parents would say this is the rock, right?
Mhm.
And
I give couples a example. I'm like, sure, we want to make money. Sure, we want to have a really good job, but money can't change your bedpan. Money can't console you. Money can't say I love you at night, but your partner can. And the other thing is we get into this cycle of monotonous day-to-day schedules. I go to work, I come home. So another activity that I give my couples is I ask them to choose 5 things, each one individually, that they would like to do, experience, or share with their partner. And then they have to come together and pick 2 things off each other's list, and they have to schedule it out. They have to go ahead and put it on the calendar so that in the day-to-day or the week-to-week grind that we get into, when you get to a place where you're getting really frustrated and you're tired, you can just look at your calendar and say, if I can just hold on one more week, we're going to have this event going on. Or if I can just push through this next thing that I've got to accomplish, I know that a break is coming and I can spend more time with my partner and get more quality time. And I also think that you should always, at least 1 hour a week, an hour is not much to ask, 1 hour a week, sit down at a table, not in the living room, not in your bedroom, at the dining room table, and have a conversation about how we're doing. Which brings me to, we should never have heated discussions in our bedroom. A bedroom, it should be a place of sanctity and a place of love. So if we get used to having argumentative conversations in that space, then that's going to become a space that's very difficult to find peace in when things are really going good. So I always suggest that we sit down at the table, a place where we eat. You know why? Because when we eat, we feel good, right? How mad and angry are we going to get at a place where we usually feel good? It's going to be a place where we can hopefully talk about things without actually arguing. So those are some extra tools that I would share.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I think about that. Why everyone's always around the kitchen table having tea and not having these conversations in other rooms. That's a really good one.
Yes.
And an hour a week really doesn't seem like that much to spend. Like, how are we doing? I mean, you would do that at your job. Your supervisor would spend some time and say, this is working. Maybe we want to try something a different way. Maybe this is a sticking point. I guess we take it too personally, huh?
We do. And life is too short. And we know coming out of COVID, so many people lost so many lives. And every morning you wake up, before your feet hit the floor, you have the ability to decide and create what your day is going to look like by the tone you set in your mind and your heart and your soul. And so if you just take a moment and being thankful in that moment that you have the ability to see another day, it might start off the tone of the rest of your day much better with everything and everybody else. Just being grateful, one, to be alive, to be grateful to still have family, to be grateful to have an opportunity to show up somewhere another day, no matter what that somewhere looks like.
Thank you so much. And I want to be respectful of your time because I know how busy you are. I thank you for being with us. How can people find you if someone wanted to come see information that you want people to know? Do you have social media people could follow you on? What are those things?
We do. We have Instagram, we have a Facebook, and we have a website. It's called greatervisioncounseling.com.
Great. So greatervisioncounseling.com.
Yes, ma'am. That's
Okay,
our
we're going to
website.
put that in our little chat
Yes.
so that people can do that. And what about, and so they'll be able to find links to your social media on Greater Vision Counseling.
Yes, ma'am. They will also be able to
Or do you have a
identify
hand?
all of our different locations as well.
Perfect. All right. So we will get that all set up. Is there anything else, any final thoughts you would like to share with our collective on relationships?
I would like to leave everybody with this one thing. Enjoy your journey. Each of us has been given a journey. Take control of yours and make sure that you weed out anything that causes a lack of peace or a lack of joy, so that you can continue to feel and seek that every day of your life. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, LuEvelyn. And I hope that this day brings you ease and joy. And we thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.